The moment they slammed the cuffs on him, they had no idea who he really was. Just 30 minutes later, their entire station was surrounded by black SUVs, and out stepped the FBI. What happened next shocked the whole department and the country. Now let's dive into the full story. It was a quiet Tuesday afternoon in a small Georgia town. Officer Brady and Officer Lewis were patrolling a back road near the outskirts when they spotted an old, rusty blue pickup truck parked awkwardly near a gas station, its driver's side door slightly open, and hazard lights blinking. Inside, an elderly black man wearing a faded blue plaid shirt and a cap that read Vietnam Veteran seemed to be rummaging through his glove compartment. He appeared to be looking for something, papers maybe, or his license. But to the officers, the scene looked suspicious. "We got ourselves a code 14. Possible suspicious activity," Officer Lewis muttered into the radio. Already assuming trouble, they pulled up behind the truck and stepped out. "Sir, step out of the vehicle. Hands where we can see them," one shouted firmly. The man turned slowly, his hands visible, his tired eyes calm but confused. "Is there a problem, officers?" he asked in a composed tone. They didn't bother to answer. One officer grabbed his arm while the other yanked him from the seat. Before anyone could react, the elderly man was in handcuffs. They began questioning him aggressively, demanding answers he didn't know them. People passing by glanced at the scene, but no one said a word. To them, it was just another day. Just another arrest of someone who fit the description. But what they didn't realize was, this was no ordinary man. Back at the station, the atmosphere was casual, almost smug. Officer Brady leaned back in his chair while Officer Lewis paced the room. In the cold, dimly lit interrogation room, the elderly man sat silently, his wrists still cuffed, posture steady. He didn't plead, didn't resist. Just waited. The officers fired off questions, their tone growing more impatient by the second. "Where were you heading? Whose truck is this? What were you doing by the gas station? Got any weapons in the vehicle?" The accusations escalated quickly from trespassing to car theft, and then to suspicion of illegal possession. But through it all, the man never flinched. Not once. His eyes remained fixed, calm, almost like he'd been through this dance before. "You've made a mistake," he said firmly. "I'm not who you think I am." The officers exchanged glances, then laughed. "Oh, really?" Officer Lewis smirked. "You think wearing a veteran cap gives you immunity?" He just tilted his head slightly and replied with quiet certainty, "Just wait." 27 minutes ticked by. The station buzzed with its usual noise, keyboards clacking, phones ringing, radios humming. Then one call changed everything. The front desk phone rang, and the young officer who answered it went stiff. His face turned pale as he spoke. "Yes. Yes, sir, he's here." He put the phone down slowly, then turned to his partner with panic in his voice. "They're on their way. The FBI, and they want to speak to him, not us." Suddenly, the air inside the station turned ice cold. The sound came like thunder. Tires screeched against the pavement as 3 sleek, black SUVs pulled up to the front of the station. The engines barely had time to shut off before 6 FBI agents stepped out in unison, suits crisp, badges out, and faces locked in stone-cold focus. Inside the precinct, time seemed to stop. Conversations halted. Even the buzzing fluorescent lights felt louder in the silence that followed. The lead agent, a tall black woman with commanding presence and eyes like steel, pushed through the double doors like she'd done this 100 times before. She didn't waste a second. "Where is Colonel Raymond Ellis?" she demanded, her voice echoing across the room like a gavel in court. "Colonel who?" Officer Brady stuttered, visibly confused. The agent stepped closer, holding up a badge and a document stamped with federal clearance. "In your holding cell. The man you unlawfully arrested 30 minutes ago." The room went ice cold. Officers glanced at each other, faces draining of color. "You mean that old man in the blue truck?" One officer finally said that. The agent's expression hardened. "That old man served 27 years in covert military operations. He's a highly decorated war hero, former intelligence officer, and an active federal consultant. He has more classified access than half the people in Washington." You could hear a pin drop. Even the radio static seemed to hush itself. The station wasn't just cold now. It was frozen with regret. The officers hesitated for a moment before slowly unlocking the cell. The air was thick with tension as the door creaked open. Colonel Ellis stood up with quiet grace. His back was straight, shoulders firm. No anger burned in his eyes, only calm resolve. Every step he took reminded them that he wasn't just a man. He was a soldier, a leader, a living part of American history. The FBI agents immediately stood at attention. No one spoke until the lead agent stepped forward. "Sir," she said. "Respectfully, we apologize for the delay. We're here to take you home." Colonel Ellis gave a small nod. Behind them, Officer Lewis awkwardly cleared his throat and took a step forward. We didn't know," he stammered. "We thought." Colonel Ellis turned slowly, his eyes fixed on the officer with piercing stillness. "No," he said, "you didn't think at all." He paused, letting the silence hang heavy before continuing. "You saw a black man in an old truck, assumed the worst, and acted on that bias. You judged me not by my actions, not by my words, but by the color of my skin, not the content of my service." Those words landed with the weight of truth, uncomfortable, undeniable. The lead FBI agent turned sharply toward the officers. "Do you have any idea what this could have triggered? You jeopardized national security on a hunch, on prejudice?" The entire station stood frozen, and for once, the officers had nothing left to say. In the days that followed, the small-town police department found itself at the center of a nationwide firestorm. Under growing pressure, they released a formal public apology, acknowledging their misjudgment and procedural failures. But for many, especially those who had witnessed the arrest in person or through their phone screens, the apology came too late. The video captured by a teenager across the street had already gone viral. Within hours, it had millions of views. It showed the exact moment Colonel Ellis, calm and handcuffed, was marched into the station, followed later by a powerful scene where FBI agents escorted him out with full respect, while the arresting officers stood stiff, heads bowed in silence. Major news outlets ran the story. Headlines read, "Decorated Black Veteran Wrongfully Arrested, FBI Steps In." Talk shows, civil rights groups, and public figures voiced outrage. Protesters gathered at the station steps, holding signs that read, "He served with honor, you served with bias." And Colonel Ellis? He didn't do a media tour. He didn't seek revenge. He issued just one statement. "This wasn't about me. It's about what happens every single day to people who don't have the protection I had. I'm lucky. Others are not." That line echoed across the nation. In response, national law enforcement agencies launched internal reviews. The two arresting officers were suspended, pending a full investigation into racial profiling and misconduct. But more importantly, the country was forced to take a hard look in the mirror and ask itself, how many more heroes are we treating like suspects? So what happens when you wrongly arrest a man who once trained federal agents himself? You learn a hard lesson, one the entire world watches unfold. Let this be a reminder. Not every story is what it seems. And not every man is who you assume. Don't forget to subscribe for more real, powerful stories like this.